This is the introduction to Assignment 6. So Assignment 6 is about Windows Forms applications. So the first part of the assignment is actually to take a look at some supplied code. So I've taken the code that we've been writing up until this point,
and I've turned it into a .NET Standard library.
and I've added some stuff to it. So the first thing to notice is that several of the classes are now public. So if you look at the code, you'll see that there used to be no access specifier in front of the class name, and I've changed that and I've added the word public to it. So CanRack now has an indexer. Coin has a number of coin constants added to it. It also has a couple of conversion routines it didn't have before, a static constructor, and a static property that returns all the coin denominations, very similar to what we did with flavor and flavor ops. Coinbox now includes some new methods to allow us to move coins in and out of the coin box or between coin boxes. For the most part, I think the code added does what you would expect it to do. You have several options at this point. You can use all of the supplied code, or you can take the new code and integrate it into the code you've already written, or you can write all of this code yourself. There's nothing particularly complicated about it. It's really more a matter of time constraints than anything else. Now, if you do choose to write this code yourself, there are still a couple of options. You could choose to write it all because you know you will eventually need it, or you can choose only to write the code that you actually need to do the next exercise. Now, of course, that means in later assignments, you'd have to write the additional methods that you chose not to write during this assignment. But either way, the choice is yours. All right, so let's take a brief look at that code. If you look at the supplied solution for exercise 5, you will find at the bottom is a project
Supplied 6.0 vin.lib, and this is a .NET Standard library.
For example, here's CanRack, and that class is public. Now, if you go back and you look at the previous supplied solutions, you'll see that there is no keyword public in front of the class or any of the classes. All right, so that's the supplied code. Once you've taken a look at that, we can begin exercise 6.2, which creates a new Windows Forms application. And this is typically the way that you want to develop your code. You want to write the business logic, as much as the business logic as you possibly can, and keep that separate from the input architecture classes and the output architecture classes. This is sometimes referred to as a thin GUI. So now what you want to do, having created a Windows Form application, is add a reference to the supplied code. And then once you've done that, put several controls on your form, as you see here, labels, picture boxes, and buttons, and then add appropriate event procedures to those controls so that your Windows Form application acts as a vending machine. So in particular, users should be able to put money in, they should be able to get their money back without buying a soda, etc., etc. In other words, standard sort of vending machine kind of things. Now, as a couple of suggestions, I would suggest you create a coin box that holds most of the money in the vending machine, and then a temporary box to hold the money that the human user has just input into the vending machine. That way it's a whole lot easier to return their money. Once the soda has been paid for and the can has been ejected, transfer the money from the temporary box into the main box. And however you implement your vending machine, I suggest that there be a relatively small amount of money available to make change with so that you can test the functionality of your vending machine, in particular that the exact change lights when exact change is required. And that's the introduction to Assignment 6.